100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 Sports Board in W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Alabama 1st and 10 on the 12. Again, Houston. He's got a hole. He's over. Alabama touchdown.
I just wondered if your listeners know how good a football player you were. I can still see you playing that fullback, knocking those players out of the way. And I believe I could have run behind you.
Martin, I can remember when we came to summer and you playing fullback up there. And I saw you in the weight room and watched you work out in the weight room. But you could pick up, you was playing on picking up the whole weight room. I wanted to fix it, and I learned that thing back. Biggest mistake we ever made.
The Martin Houston Show with national championship winning fullback Martin Houston, giving you 1 hour of intense, hard-hitting analysis from an insider's perspective. It's time for the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Good morning. Welcome into the Martin Houston Show with X's and O's Sports. It's a beautiful, beautiful Thursday morning and big day yesterday, the big haul. But before we get into that, and I toss things to X with X's and O's Sports to get things rolling. I want to remind you that this is the day that the Lord has made, so let's rejoice and be glad in it. Take some time today to notice someone, love someone, serve someone, be the difference you want to see in the world today. Somebody's needing you or depending on you to do that exact thing today. Talking about being the difference you want to see. Big news in the college football world yesterday. As we talk about that, some big stories, big highlights, and we'll encourage you. We won't get to all of them. But if you want to know something about every single signee from yesterday, go to Tide109.com. Tide109.com. Joe and the Tide 109 staff did an unbelievable job reporting on every signee on yesterday. So, like I said, we may not get to all of them. We'll get to what we can, but if you want just some great reading, do that. And it's not just on signing day; it's every day. There's great articles for you to get an inside scoop on. That's Tide109.com. I'll toss it to X as he'll kind of lead a lot of this recruiting conversation. As he's got a little younger brain that can retain a lot more information about it, but I'll chime in as I got some numbers as well. Good morning, X. How you doing, sir?
Good morning. How are you doing?
Doing well.
Yeah, yesterday was a eventful day to say the least. When you look at all the recruiting news that happened, but real quick, Urban Meyer, the Florida legend, the Ohio State legend, was fired overnight by the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it's crazy how as you said earlier, the urban legend has turned into the urban myth.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, he couldn't get out of his own way. It was like something going on each and every time you turned around. And if a program's already struggling, that's the last thing you need. And they made probably an easy choice. I shouldn't say a tough choice, but they probably made an easy choice considering the state of their organization and franchise.
Very true. But getting into recruiting, Alabama still sits at number 2. But the biggest news of the day is Deion Sanders, of course, getting Travis Hunter, the number 1 player in the country, to go to Jackson State and HBCU after he had been committed to Florida State for an extremely long time. So I think that's definitely the number 1 headliner of yesterday. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the nation's number one overall composite rating player, defensive back, heading to HBCU. But I think a lot of it has to do with a trend that's happening. If I'm not mistaken, didn't basketball's top um, recruit last year signed with Howard, an HBCU, and so he is following the trend. And I think that Dion X may have a game plan. He may be trying to bring some legitimacy back or prominence back to the HBCU. And with him, Eddie George, and Hugh Jackson, they have some big names at least uh, running the sidelines, and I think they'll only increase.
Without a doubt, I think it's going to be maybe not a major move anytime soon, but you'll start to see this more often, especially with the NIL deals that these kids are able to sign now. So they can go to these schools, bring prominence back, but still be able to financially take care of their families as well.
Yeah, I think how this turns out is going to be majorly important on whether it has an impact. Who would have thought that potential competition for the nation's top players for Alabama would not come from Georgia, A&M, or the LSUs of the world, but could come from the Jacksons? And you have to think. Everybody laughed at Dion when Dion made the statement, I want to be looked at and respected in the same vein as Nick Saban, Coach Nick Saban. I want that same respect. And then, of course, he just proceeded to land an Aflac deal that put his name, his program in front of the nation's top players week in and week out, as Aflac advertises so much in those ball games. And you can't tell me that didn't have anything to do with it. And if this young man goes on after 3 years or whatever and signs and still one of the top recruits, it's sort of like you can make an analysis, Xavier, to the college football playoffs. It's sort of like that. If Cincy, if Cincy wins or plays well and respectable, then the group of five takes a big step forward in the college football landscape. Same thing happens with HBCU. If he goes on and does well, you may see other kids, following that suit.
Yes. But getting back to what everybody wants to talk about, Alabama, they stayed at number 2. Georgia drops to number 3, and Texas A&M actually moves up to the number 1 spot. Well, with that being said, as we talked yesterday, Alabama still holds the top spot, and it actually moved up to a 0.9517 for the average rating of these recruits. So even though we didn't move positions, we actually improved our class.
Yeah.
And of course, go ahead.
Yeah, I was trying to say yesterday Alabama was 94 and some change. Now they're at 95.17 per average commit. And what's call it has the numbers in the highest class because of the number of commits. But average per player, Alabama's still the top dog.
Yeah, and we added some guys that hadn't been committed: Earl Little Jr., Jahad Campbell, and Shaz Preston. All 3 guys look like they can be impact players at Alabama. Who do you like of those 3 that we added to the class?
Well, when I look at it, I guess you have to look at what's happening in terms of what your needs are. And, of course, to me, defensive backs are absolutely a need position with Alabama. So I would say that most likely he's going to have a major impact, as well as we've seen what can happen in your wide receiver room. So getting the wide receiver has a twofold effect. It kept him out of LSU and Preston and brought him to the Tide. So that would be my order: Little, Preston, and then Campbell, because Campbell's going to have a chance to, I think, grow Xavier in terms of what he does.
Yeah, I think he's a little undersized. He might potentially be a guy that you see moved inside because of that. But I definitely agree that Earl Little is the biggest high school signing that we got. Of course, we got the transfer Elias Ricks from LSU, former five-star freshman All-American, to swap. And he's also former teammates of Bryce Young and Damani Jackson, who is deciding where he's going tomorrow. Do you think that might play a role into where Damani signs?
Yeah, it's interesting whether it helps or hurts in terms of Jackson because of playing, at Alabama, you don't ever know whether these guys are going to now. The safety position used to be so different, but now safety and cornerback, safety, DBs all are kind of the same. So you can't always tell what's happening there. But I think that it doesn't hurt our cause at all for him to be looking potentially. Making that decision to play with two of his former teammates, play at Alabama. That's a pretty big deal. And if you're gonna come across country, what better way to do it than to have two of your teammates waiting on you and maybe even being your roommate?
Yeah, I think it can have as you said, it can be a positive or a negative, just because now there's three guys coming in on top of who Alabama already has for the money at that position. So it just depends on, is he willing to move across country? Is he willing to compete? Or, let's be honest, he's probably a day one starter at USC. So yeah, I think those things can be a net positive or net negative, just depending on how you look at it.
Absolutely. So, hey, as we continue to move along, we got a couple phone calls we'll get to in the second quarter. But you listen to the Martin Houston Show. We got X and O's driving a boat, a ship, the 18-wheeler, the RV, whatever you want to call it, as we move through the recruiting world. We will have Hank South joining us in the third quarter, and want to remind you about those great articles over at Tide 109. Right here on, excuse me, right here on the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9.
From the Townsend Exxon Traffic Supervisor back on 69 northbound at Calusa as we start our Thursday morning. Everything else around town looks good. The interstate, of course, is steady between Berkeley.
Is still Alabama. Tune in New Year's Eve. It's the Crimson Tide and the Cincinnati Bearcats in the Cotton Bowl, live from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, in the semifinal. Our coverage begins at 11:30 on your home for Bama.
Eli Gold, and you're listening to your home for Alabama football, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Dash in for JCPenney Super Saturday Sale. It's the last weekend to shop for Christmas, so make room in your sleigh for thousands of doorbusters. Hurry, wrap up the savings Friday to Sunday.
Get more diamond than you thought possible at Fincher and Osmond.
It's the artisan-created diamond. It's a real diamond.
And it's real big. A full carat for about the price of a half carat.
She'll be back flipping into the new year when she sees these earrings.
If you don't know what to get her, this is what to get her.
See Tom before Christmas at Fincher and Osmond.
Slightly hidden on McFarland Boulevard between Edgar's and Local Route.
The perfect place to make your escape. Golden Moon offers 600 finely appointed rooms with incredible views. Take a dip in our Vegas-style infinity pool, complete with a full-service bar and cabana. Experience the South's premier golf destination at Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, or catch the biggest sporting events at Time Out Lounge. So what are you waiting for? Come see us in Choctaw, Mississippi. Golden Moon Hotel and Casino, a Pearl River Resort property.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Unseasonably mild weather continues. Partially sunny today with a high at 73. For tonight, fair with a low at 59. Tomorrow, temperatures near record levels. A mixture of clouds and sunshine. The high in the mid-70s at 75. I'm James Spann of the ABC 3240 Weather Center on Tide 100.9. It's 52 degrees in Tuscaloosa.
Scott Smith and Sophomart Design, doing business for 17 plus years, specializing in graphic design services, commercial printing, promotional products, advertising specialties, and so much more. Basically, any and everything you would need to advertise, promote, and grow your business. Through strong partnerships, strong customer service, and creative ideas, they'll help you market and grow your business. Give Scott a call at 205-292-4680 or email scottis@comcast.net and visit them online at sophmartdesign.com. Hello, I'm Martin Houston, and I'm so excited about this time of the year because it represents not just football, but the season of the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. On behalf of Harvest Church and the Martin Houston Show, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year and invite you to join Harvest Church on Sundays at 10 a.m. and Wednesdays at 6 p.m., where we're creating and enabling faithful followers of Christ. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year from the Martin Houston Show and Harvest Church.
All right, guys, take it away.
Welcome back to Martin Show with and you can call in at the Taco Casa hotline at 205-342-9904. We have Chuck Hunt on hold. Welcome into the show, Chuck.
Hello, you all. Hello, good morning to you all. This is quite a conversation to start off the show. Thinking about what happened yesterday, the young man, Travis Hunter, flipped from where Deion Sanders played at Florida State to where he's now coaching at Jackson State. This is quite interesting because you never thought today he's a five-star commit and was signed with HBCU. And when I tell people, and I'm glad you on it, Xavier, you're a younger guy. The story I think about a school like Jackson State. Let's face it, they have 4 Pro Football Hall of Famers. Some of these schools that are Power 5 schools don't already have a Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer. Yeah, Jackson State has 4. Let me tell you, Lem Martin, Walter Payton, Jackie Slater, and Robert Brazil. And Grambling has 4 as well. My parents are my mother. My parents went there in the 60s. The time that they went to school, they couldn't go to the schools like LSU and all the others, and like the Alabama, any of the SEC schools because it was segregation then. And my father went to school with Bud Buchanan and Willie Brown and all those guys, the 2 Pro Football Hall of Famers right there. And then you think about the other one, and think about before them, you had Willie Davis who played with the Green Bay Packers, and then later on my mother was back in school when Charlie Joyner was there. Charlie played with San Diego Chargers, and they're in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And the thing about it, like you talk about Tennessee State. Tennessee State had this Hall of Famers, had Claude Hopkins who just passed away, and Richard Dent, who played with the 85 Chicago Bears. Our brother Houston, we remember that team, that 85 team with the Buddy Ryan defense. But there's a lot of history there with a lot of HBCUs that have had some great players come through. That's what I said. They went to these schools when they couldn't go to the where you went to Alabama and all, and they had the Auburns and all these other schools, the SEC and ACC, and that's what's happening now. These guys are saying, and I think what happened last year after all the social unrest last year, and a lot of them started considering coming to the HBCU. And Steve Hugh Jackson is at Grambling now, 33 miles west of me. It should be interesting to see how things are going to turn out. And it's kind of, and that's one, like I look at you all with Nick Saban at Alabama, and see they both have been NFL head coaches. And what happened, the message they probably couldn't, get across to the NFL. It's just been working in the NFL. They probably get that message out better to those guys on the college level. And one thing fair about Hugh Jackson, he's a great recruiter. Let's face it, he recruited 2 Heisman Trophy winners at the University of Southern California, Carson Palmer and Matt Leinart. I want to keep all that in mind.
Oh yeah, they are bringing a change of culture back to HBCUs. HBCUs have always been able to produce. You look at Jerry Rice, all-time leading receiver in the NFL.
I watched him play. Okay, I watched Rice play, and I watched him and Willie Titan play back in the early 1980s. To show you how old I am, I'm 46. Child.
and you, as you said, Jackson State, Walter Payton retired, and for almost 20 years was the all-time leading rusher in the NFL. So there's been a lot of greatness come out of HBCUs when it comes to the NFL, and Dion and Eddie George and Hugh Jackson seem like they're trying to bring that back. I mean, there's a great legacy, so why not try to get it restarted?
Yeah, and I'll say and thanks, Chuck, for reminding us of that history. And I will say that I think name, image, and likeness may very well play a huge role in terms of helping not just the HBCs but HBCUs and smaller schools be able to keep guys at home or bring guys in when there's a relationship, because you have to think there's the HBCU aspect, there's the Deion Sanders effect, and then it's the fact that he was a Florida State guy and a DB and a Hall of Famer, and all of that in him, and then of course I would not be surprised if this young man isn't in an Aflac commercial here before long. But anyway,
he got to deal with Barstool for 1.5. So
for what?
He got to deal with Barstool for 1.5 million. So that shows that NIL effect there.
Absolutely.
But Chuck, thanks for calling in. We've got to get going on to Pat. Pat, you're in with the Martin Houston Show.
Hey, but Xavier, he does not have a contract with Barstool. Read that very carefully. And that's the thing with Lane Kiffin. If you read Lane Kiffin's deal, that these kids are not getting. Hey, the money is not being guaranteed.
But Pat.
Go ahead.
Money is not guaranteed in the NFL either. That's the way those contracts are written. It's only a percentage of the money that is written. I mean, I'm sure
money is guaranteed. They do have a contract in the NFL, Martin. But anyway, I don't want to argue about all that. I want to talk about
Pat, let me ask you this. Why did you choose to bring that up? Why did you bring that up?
Well, why did I bring that up? Because I think it's a disservice what he did bringing a young man to
why?
Jackson State. My son was recruited to Jackson State. They offered him a full ride. They even offered him laundry money to come to Jackson State.
Why is that a disservice to that young man, Pat?
I didn't like you said. I don't want to argue with you about it.
No. You're not arguing with me. You brought up something, and I'm asking you to explain why it's a disservice for a young man to choose to go.
Because that was a thing that happened back years ago. There wasn't great players.
So kids can't.
Like our Super Bowl winning quarterback. With the Washington Redskins that was playing down at Grambling. He couldn't go to the Alabamas of the world back in that day. Now he can.
So that doesn't mean anything because
we don't need to reverse. We do not need to reverse things for the future. The things that are good things that are happening with college football does not.
So his freedom of choice. So his freedom of choice is Pat, is what I hear you saying. Is his freedom of choice to play where he wants to play. It's a bad thing that he chose to go to an HBCU because he could have chosen to go to Alabama, or he choosing to go.
His promise of $1.5 million is what did it, Martin. Hey, everything else is crap. And money talks.
Why? Okay.
Quinn Ewers gave up his senior year of high school was for $1.5 million. Quinn could have gone and had a senior year of high school and then gone to Texas in the spring and still got the same deal. but he wanted the money now. And so he chose to forego his senior year of high school to go to Ohio State to now transfer and lose a year.
And no one called that crap.
Yeah, I got you. All right, hey, let's go to the gist of my call. The gist of my call is what happened last night after recruiting was over with, per se, and the icing on the cake and the D-back that coach brought in from LSU. That, hey, does throw a monkey wrench in what happens with Damani Jackson tomorrow?
I don't know. It could be, like we were saying, it could be a net positive or a net negative. It's a positive because Damani was teammates with Elias. Damani was teammates with Bryce. So he has people in Tuscaloosa that can make him feel more at home. But because we did sign Traquan Fagans, we did sign Earl Little Jr., and now with Elias coming in, they all play the same position. And as my dad stated, safety and corner is almost interchangeable in Alabama's defense. Look at Malachi Moore. Look at Bryant Branch. So it could be a negative. It could be a positive. It just really depends on Damani's mindset and if he wants to compete or not.
Okay. Next question. Let's go with this. I'm going to coin a phrase here that I think that Coach Saban is the greatest hedge fund operator in college football today. What do y'all think? A hedge fund operator.
I mean, I think Coach Saban does a great job of making his bets or his investments with what's in hand, but also with anticipation of getting the extra. So I think that if he thought that he wasn't going to have a chance at Damani Jackson, I think he wouldn't have taken Ricks if he thought it was going to impact him negatively. So I think he already knows and probably had that conversation with that young man that he was going to take him, and that young man has either already told him what he's going to do or not. That old bird in the hand, Pat, is better than two in the bush. So, hey, let's thanks, Pat. We have to get to another call before we get to.
Y'all have a blessed day. And
all right.
Didn't upset you, Martin.
You're not upsetting me. I just want you. Hey, if you say something, you need to be ready to explain it. I'm not upset. I mean, that's your opinion. And I disagree with it, but it is your opinion. So let's get to Curtis Lewis. Curtis Lewis, you're in with the Martin Hughes Show with X and O. What's on your mind, sir?
Yeah, Martin. Yeah, I think it was very commendable as to how Deion Sanders is able to a little bit as far as getting the recruits. But this is not an HBCU deal. This is really a money deal, NIL deal, and the fact that Deion is able to utilize that, it's nice for it to be seen. It'll help the decay lessen a little bit more on HBCU football, because right now, HBCU football is going by the way of the dinosaur since a time are not playing other comparable schools. Just like Tennessee State now is in the OVC, has been in the OVC for quite a while, and that's why Tennessee State is flourishing, and I think they're going to continue to flourish. They might not be the best program as far as getting on the field and playing great ball, but the program is going to flourish because they're playing better competition. And that's what I think all the HBCUs need to do is play better competition on a regular basis and not just play amongst themselves.
And I think that's what Deion is trying to push for. I think,
go ahead. This is a step in the right direction. Yes.
That's what I commend Deion for.
The thing is, yes, the NIL money did help get Travis Hunter to Jackson State. But Travis Hunter does not consider Jackson State if Deion Sanders is not the head coach and Deion Sanders hasn't been doing what he's doing. You're talking about a guy that is bringing in Power 5 transfers, guys that were 3 and 4 stars coming out of high school that didn't have success at the D1 level. He won his conference with an 11-1 record. His son won the Walter Payton Player of the Year award, the first freshman to ever do that. He is building a foundation. I truly believe Deion isn't doing this to eventually move up. I think he's really trying to create and bring back HBCU football.
We're familiar with what Deion has done at this point. That's not the question. The question I'm looking at is from the standpoint that he's doing. Yes, he won the SWAC this year. He lost it last year to Alabama A&M because all his players that he got in weren't all in yet. And of course, you playing somebody, when you playing a baseball game and you playing with a club and everybody else is playing with a paddle, you're going to win more games because you're taking these guys that you got a team full of 4 or 5-star guys from the D1 prospect line playing against a bunch of guys who are D2 or 1 AA guys, you're going to win.
Yep.
That's the way it's going to be. But until that wealth gets spread throughout the HBCUs, then you're going to have that thing where he's just clubbing these guys. And it's not like Deion's trying to bring anything back. Deion didn't go to an HBCU. Eddie Jones didn't go to an HBCU. None of these guys who ever attended an HBCU, they didn't think about an HBCU when they came out of school.
Right.
But they could have.
Yes.
But
you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. I'm not going to argue
that. This is a platform they could get on easily and go ahead and make their bones. That's why they chose the HBCU route. They can make their bones there, and nobody's going to fault them for what they do, because as long as they do it the right way, and that's what they're doing. Look at Mississippi Valley State. Nobody in their right mind goes to Mississippi Valley State, and yet Jerry Rice came from there. Adelaide came from there. But you cannot get a player to go to Mississippi Valley State because of where it's located and because you're playing on a good field.
Right.
And Deion is trying to get them the money needed to get that
and
field.
But
that does have that too.
Hey, Curtis, and you just nailed it. I think that Deion, you're right, he didn't go there or anything like that, but I do think his heart's in the right place because he's making and doing things that's not just about Jackson State. He has done things that will help the league if they will follow him. I would not be surprised if Deion's ultimate goal isn't to be the commissioner and do some other things in that over that league. You know what I mean? Like, don't be surprised there. We have to get the break because we got a guest coming up. But I will say that I think Deion, to your point, nothing's going to change until they get a higher profile. But you have to start somewhere. And Deion is pretty creative and a businessman who has figured out a way to do that. Thanks, Curtis.
All right now.
Hey, and listen, we got a couple other callers. You guys will have to get in on if you have recruiting questions for Hank South. So we'll switch the gears to Alabama football and recruiting with Hank South coming up next. Virgil Williams saying Jackson State getting Hunter is an NIL publicity move, and he would transfer before he ever plays a game. I don't know why Virgil feels that way. It may be. That may be what happens. But the HBCU have produced NFL talent for a long, long time. And if they could do it when there was a racially divided world, they can do it now. If you watch the NFL, there are a lot of guys who are coming to the league from non-Power 5, non-Group of 5 schools, whether it be HBCU, whether it be just Division FCS, etc. So the kid's he can still get his league and get his pay while he's here. We'll see if that happens. But we want to talk Alabama recruiting up next right here on the Martin Houston Show.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, we got a wreck on 69 northbound at Tuscaloosa as we start our Thursday morning. Everything else around town looks good. The interstate, of course, is steady between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. If you see other conditions, give us a call. It's the end of the year clearance. It's going on now at Townsend Nissan. You can save a bundle. Go see them. I'm Captain Ray.
Hello, this is Martin Houston with the Martin Houston Show, and I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Overflow Express Wash. Their mission is to provide great customer service with a showroom clean car and an exceptional customer service experience. They have the basic car wash that starts at $7, but you need to check out the premium wash packages, which start as low as $12 and go up to $20. They also have a membership wash club that you can get for starting at $23.99, going up to $39.99. In other words, it's double the regular premium package, drop a penny, and you can be one of the great members of Overflow Express Wash. My family and
I hear you moving, man.
Inside and out by using Overflow Express Wash. They're located on Skyland Boulevard right next door to Alabama 1, or you can find them online at overflowexpresswash.com. Andy Phillips and his team look forward to making you a part of their team.
You may be into punk rock, soft rock, or classic rock, R&B, hip-hop, or house, country, techno, or techno country. But no matter what kind of music you listen to, here's something else you should hear. Please consider getting vaccinated. Talk to your pharmacist today about Comirnaty, COVID-19 vaccine mRNA. This message brought to you by BioNTech and Pfizer.
Nick Saban calls it the process. John Maxwell said that everything rises and falls on it. And Coach Wooden said it's what you learn after you think you know it all that makes the difference. What am I talking about? Leadership and personal development. Is your organization, your school, your church, your family, are they receiving the proper level of leadership development and personal development? If not, the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring can help you with that. We have our pep talks, which is a 1 to 1.5 hour lunch and learn, which we can customize to meet your needs, or we have some topics that we present that we know can help your organization. And if you're looking for one-on-one mentoring and coaching, we can also assist you with that. Visit peptalks35.com, that's peptalks35.com, or send an email to martin@martinhouston.org. That's the Empowerment Center for Leadership and Mentoring. I'm Martin Houston, and I really get excited during football season, but nothing excites me as much as the Christmas holiday season. On behalf of the Alabama One family and the Martin Houston Show, we want to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please stop by one of our branch locations because we'll be open to serve you throughout the Christmas season. And don't forget, you can visit alabama1.org. And once again, Merry Christmas from Alabama One, one together.
There we go, Martin. You're on right now, guys.
Welcome back to the Martin Houston Show with X's and O's, Xavier Houston. We are welcoming in Hank South of 247 Sports and Bama Online. How are you doing today, Hank?
Hey, I'm good, Xavier. How are you?
Doing good. So yesterday was a busy day across the country, of course, but focusing in on Alabama, what were some of the moves that surprised you, or was this pretty much par for course of what you were expecting?
Yeah, I don't think in terms of how Alabama's day went that there were many surprises. I think, throughout the day it went about as expected, whether that be, the guys they added throughout the morning and afternoon, to the guys they saw go elsewhere. Robert Woodyard signed with Auburn. That was pretty much expected as well. I guess you could say the biggest surprise of the day, which wasn't really even a surprise, I don't think, was Eli Ricks, the LSU transfer, committing to Alabama last night, kind of after everything settled down during the day. Another huge early signing day. I mean, they add Alabama adds 4 top 100 recruits to its class, and then you get a former 5-star cornerback, a guy that can come in and contribute right away later in the evening, and then we'll see where they go from there. We're still waiting on one more announcement on Friday from Kendrick Law, the 4-star athlete from Louisiana. I'm sure Bama will be active in the transfer portal some more. So, it's definitely not done yet, or likely not done yet, but a huge day with the 4 guys they added, or the 5 guys they added yesterday.
Yeah, I noticed Jaleel Skinner was probably the biggest surprise to me, who did not sign yesterday. And he's also not taking interviews. Is that a potential flip, or is he solid on Alabama?
Yeah, it's something we're watching. He took an official visit to Miami late. He's been solid to Bama. they pretty much took that visit to Miami for fun. I don't think it's really something to be concerned about. On Bama Online, Tim Watts, our publisher, had a note last night saying basically, his parents have to sign his letter of intent with him, and they're having some logistics issues as far as meeting up to be able to do that. So I think we'll probably see that finished up today. He said he was going to sign on Friday. I think they're going to sign as soon as possible. So I expect him to stick with Alabama. I don't think there's too much to worry about there as far as where things stand with Jaleel Skinner.
All right. Hey, Hank, the Alabama sitting at number 2 with 24 commitments. Texas A&M, number 1 with 26, and Georgia with 26. How does the transfer portal and all of that go with allowing them to sign more kids? Because, traditionally, these two teams would already be oversigned. Alabama will be one short, but they look like they both going to recruit right up through the February deadline. So did the number of kids they can have offers out to and LOIs go up with the transfer portal, or are these guys just oversigning?
Yeah, that was something that NCAA passed for this cycle alone. We'll see what happens going forward. But basically, they ruled that teams, there's the 25 cap that we're used to, and then they're giving each team 7 additional spots to add other players. But the only caveat to that is basically you can match up to 7 spots from 7 transfer portal losses. So if you have like 7 guys transfer out, you can add up to 7 guys extra new players, so up to 32, I guess, for the cycle. So, but again, if you only have 2 guys transfer out, you can only use up to 2 spots for that. So Baylor's had a few guys enter the transfer portal. Pierce Quick, Marcus Banks. I'm totally blanking on the other name that's in the transfer portal. But, yeah. So their number will be 3 at this point. We'll see the other transfer portal losses, but so that's kind of how that's working, and kind of giving a little bit more flexibility to teams to combat that. But again, you have those extra spots, but you still have to work under that 85-man limit too. So that kind of comes into play as well when you're doing that kind of numbers crunching.
Wow. Well, hey, of course, a big story that has taken a sidebar to conversation on today's show was nation's number 1 recruit signing with Jackson State, and what that means from HBCU standpoint, et cetera. What's been the buzz in the recruiting world? I know you guys have had to be talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, that was the topic for, I feel like, a message board on National Signing Day, typically it has to be a pretty big story to occupy, 8 different threads on your board. And that was, for every school pretty much. But, Travis Hunter flipping from Florida State to Jackson State to play for Deion Sanders. I mean, that's the craziest, National Signing Day flip, I think, in history. I don't think there's a close second either.
Right.
For as high profile of a recruit as Travis Hunter was, he's the number 1 player for the 24/7 Sports Composite to sign with an FCS program. I mean, it's amazing, and I'm curious to see if that's going to trickle down into next year's cycle and more guys doing something similar. There was already buzz yesterday about Shamar Stewart, the 5-star defensive lineman, doing the same when he announced in February and going to Jackson State as well. But yeah, it's crazy. I think it's kind of cool. It's something you don't see. You look at they're doing a graphic on ESPN yesterday of the top 10 players and where they signed, and see Jackson State's logo with the number 1 recruit. It was pretty wild. But it was definitely crazy, and especially looking at the recruiting aspect of it. He was saying all along, I'm sticking with Florida State, and the school that people were watching, if he did flip, was Georgia. That was the school he also visited, but in the end, you talked about too on Deion Sanders is his idol growing up, and that was obviously Florida State ties there, but then he ends up deciding to go play for him at the college level. So yeah, pretty wild development.
Yeah, wow.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was mind blowing. I remember I got on the phone right after I found out, calling my dad, because it just you never see it. You don't.
Hey, let me ask you this. Let me ask Hank something real quick, Xavier, before. Hank, isn't there only one 5-star that's signed with a non-Power 5? It wasn't Oliver, the kid that went to Houston the first time?
Yeah, and I think he's the only one. Yeah.
And
so
so
far,
wait, no, they are Power 5. I forget.
When he
in Power 5 now.
When he signed with them, they were a group of 5, and I think I remember that being a story. So this is just it's kind of crazy to think, but I'll toss it back to you, X.
Yeah, Hank, just getting back to Bama real quick. Kendrick Law out of Louisiana. Is he a guy that is going to be a part of this class, or is he going to stay in state?
Yeah, that's something we're watching. I think both all the programs are still recruiting them hard. Obviously, it's a dead period again, but that doesn't keep recruits or coaches from still being able to reach out to recruits over the phone or FaceTime, that kind of stuff. So that's still he's going to announce tomorrow on Friday at 3 p.m. Central Time. So he's taking it down to the wire a little bit. A lot of people don't realize the signing period is a 3-day window. So, it starts yesterday. That's kind of the main day. Everyone does everything. And then some kids like to wait it out and sign on the third day. We've seen that before. There's some other announcements tomorrow, too, of other guys. But Kendrick Law is the big one that we're keeping an eye on. I think Bama has a really good shot to add him. I think they've been kind of the trending team for a while. The only thing that we were keeping a close eye on was, Brian Kelly at LSU were making an all-out push to keep him home. We saw Shaz Preston sign with Bama on Wednesday, so that was one Louisiana win. Obviously, Aaron Anderson was another when they flipped when Alabama flipped Aaron Anderson. Another guy LSU tried to flip late, but ended up sticking with Bama. So Kendrick Law, I think they have a good shot as well. But I think he, out of those three, Aaron Anderson, Shaz Preston, Kendrick Law, he's the one that maybe is a little bit more up in the air as far as LSU could really actually keep him home, but I still think things are trending pretty positively for Alabama, at least right now on Thursday.
Hey, did Marvin Jones Jr. make a decision, or is that still up in the air?
Yeah, he announced for Georgia on Wednesday, which was kind of
that's what I thought. But,
yeah. He was he's a Florida State legacy, and he was looking at Oklahoma. Lincoln Riley left. He went to USC, and he was looking at USC. It was kind of just like all this group of like 4 or 5 teams were kind of just all in play for him, and nobody really had a great grasp on where he was going to end up until 24 hours before. That's when Georgia kind of started trending a little bit and ended up getting him. But Georgia got him on campus last, so one of those situations where last visit ends up getting him in. His recruiter at Georgia, I can't think of the coach's name, but his recruiter recruited his older brother to West Virginia a few years ago. So there was that family tie there as well. So not a huge shock, but he ended up with Georgia.
Awesome. And Texas A&M, if Jimbo Fisher don't win, I'm sure they're going to have to give. I think they got like 20% of the top 50 players. They got like 10 top 50 players, but Alabama's still the highest average per team. Ultimately, when you guys are ranking number one classes, Hank, do you rank it based on the average or the total points, even if one team signs more?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like this whole algorithm. They actually 24/7 just implemented this new ranking system where you can look at the overall ranking of the recruits out of high school, and then you can factor in the overall ranking with the transfers as well. So if you look at Bama right now, they have 25 commitments. If you include Eli Ricks, they're still number 2, but if they add more guys, they're trying, because obviously the transfer portal is just as much of an active, recruiting aspect now as out of high school at this point. So it's a pretty cool little system that they came up with. But as far as, the overall, basically what it intends to do is like, if the school signs 17 kids out of high school and takes 6 transfers, typically they, like last year, the transfers didn't count towards your rankings. And it hurts the schools to penalize, for recruiting that way when that's a new way of recruiting now. So
Correct.
It helps smaller schools to still be relevant. But as far as, how it all factors in, there's like this whole algorithm that takes the player rating, there's differently. Like there's top 100 recruits, like their grade is weighted differently. Like the number 70 player is weighted higher than the number 90 player. So that all factors in. That was a whole debate back in the 2020 class when Georgia signed the number 1 class, because Bama had more highly rated recruits, but Georgia had more guys that were higher in the top 100, like a handful more. I don't know. It's crazy. It's all mathematics. But
yeah.
It explains it on the site on 24/7 Sports, kind of the algorithm breakdown.
It's above my pay grade, so we'll let you guys tell us what it is. Hank, tell us real quick what you got coming up, man.
Yeah, we'll obviously we're watching Kendrick Law on Friday. We'll have some obviously a lot of follow-up content on this signing class and where Bama goes from here in terms of looking towards February and beyond. So it's a good time to join, and obviously we got the playoffs coming up as well with practice starting back up today. So good time to join BamaOnline.com, and my Twitter handle is @HankSouth247.
All right, coming back. That's Hank South 247 Sports, Bama Online Recruiting. Coming back, we'll put the finishing touches on this edition of the Martin Houston Show.
100.9 traffic.
From the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center, I'm out and about on the roadways this morning. Right now, I'm in front of Piggly Wiggly looking at the steady stream of traffic coming down Lurleen southbound. Everything else moving pretty well around town. If you see conditions, please give me a call, 205-886-8886. Now's the time to get the deal at Townsend Nissan. Amazing selection, low finance rates, and they need your trade. I'm Captain Ray.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Thursday morning. A suspect is in custody after yesterday morning's shooting at the Chevron gas station on Joe Malisham Parkway in Tuscaloosa's west end near Town Park. 50-year-old John Weston Horton was sitting in the passenger seat of a car. The man walked up to the window and shot him. 31-year-old Cornelius Rashad Jones has been arrested, charged with capital murder in the case. He is being held without bond, and if convicted of capital murder, will either be sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole or sentenced to death. I'm Don Hartman.
With Taco Casa, it's not really fast food because it's made fresh every day in the store. The quality hasn't changed. The consistency hasn't changed because we haven't changed anything in the food. It's made fresh every morning in every restaurant. I think buzzwords in today's food industry are locally sourced and high quality ingredients. We want to say, that sounds great. We've been doing that since 1974. Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa.
The free AutoZone Fix Finder service can help troubleshoot the likely cause of your pesky check engine light for free and get you back on the road. Restrictions apply. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
The holidays are a perfect time for reaching out to the ones you love. And with a Hallmark holiday card, you can add a little extra warmth and wonder to their lives, no matter where they are. Whether you're connecting with family across the miles, making a neighbor smile, or letting a friend know they're loved, there's a Hallmark holiday card that's just right for everyone on your list. So let them know they're loved all year long with a Hallmark card. Find cards for the ones you care about wherever Hallmark cards are sold or at Hallmark.com, and share more merry.
Hello, I'm Martin Houston. And while I get really excited about football season, I love the holiday season even more. Merry Christmas from the Tide 109 family and the Martin Houston Show. Roll Tide.
Alright, Marky, on top right now, y'all have 3 minutes.
Welcome back into the Martin Houston Show on Tide 100.9 on your radio dial. Martin Houston Show is live and local. We got X's and O's Sports, Xavier Houston with us. Xavier, I give you toss it to you for closing thoughts on recruiting. Can't hear X.
I think it should be done by the total, the average of the recruits, not the total number, because if you sign more guys, of course, you're going to have a higher point total. So there's that. But I think Alabama has a great class, filled a lot of needs, got a big transfer in Elias Ricks. There's talks about the wide receiver from LSU, Kayshawn Butte, being a possible transfer to Alabama. So I think Alabama couldn't have really had much of a better early signing day period.
Yeah, and of course, I don't know if you've seen like the coaching rankings and all of that. Alabama totally knocking it out of the park as far as their recruiting and the Charles Kelly and Pete Golding and Freddie Roach, top 5 recruits, knocking it down in terms of Alabama. And Alabama, as you said, meeting and hitting needs. But like if I told you earlier on, if you're just joining the program, Tide 109 has every story about every recruit that signed with Alabama, from Jeremy Alexander officially signing, local kid from Alabama, all the way up to 4-star defensive lineman from Canada, the nation's top running back Emmanuel Henderson signing with the Tide, Isaiah Bonds, Tyler Booker, all of them, even Jake Pope, 3-star safety from Georgia, signing with the Tide. If you want to find out about those players and all that's coming to the future of the Tide, go to Tide109.com. You can get those great stories. And I'm sure that there'll be conversations all day long right here on Tide 100.9. For X's and O's Sports, that's Xavier Houston. I'm Martin Houston. Hey, we'll keep talking recruiting on tomorrow as Alabama's getting ready. We didn't even talk about Ty Simpson ready to get things started, already showing up for practice. So a lot to talk about. We'll be breaking that down and more right here on the Martin Houston Show. Remember this: trust in the Lord always. Lean not your own understanding. All your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your paths. Roll Tide.
Listening to the Martin Houston Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9.
Thank you, you too.
100.9 app.